We'll upload it. Hey, this is Emily and Katie from WP Fusion. We're going to talk about how you can choose a theme today. And we are starting with a website from scratch and building it out. Katie's been working on their business idea for a while, planning out what the business will do, what the brand will look like, and we're going to turn that into WordPress today. But first, how are you doing, Katie?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, I'm really excited to get this off the ground, get things started, and I'm really excited to make some introductory accessible material with you, Emily. I think it'll be really helpful for a lot of people, and you're such an awesome teacher. So, yeah, let's get started.
Awesome. Well, diving right in, this is the website we're going to be working with. This is a demo site that we have created, and we'll be transferring over our progress that we make here into a live site in the future. But the first thing we're going to be talking about this week is how do you choose a theme for your website? When you first install WordPress and you visit the backend under Appearance Themes, you'll see some generic themes that are installed and created by WordPress out of the box. Every year they come out with a new theme. So we have 2022, 23, 24, and 25. These themes will automatically populate on the backend of your WordPress website. And when you first install WordPress, it's likely you'll have one of these themes on your site. And so when we go to add a new theme, we see there are 7,000 themes to choose from that are populated here, and we can scroll through and see the different visual feels. We can see some of the most popular WordPress themes at the top. We can see some of the latest released, or you can use filters to search for a specific kind of theme that you're looking for. You might also go on Google and find something like Theme Forest, where there's a lot of paid themes that you can buy online. So there's even more than 7,000 themes. There's probably more like 15,000 or maybe even more. So with that many themes to choose from, it's hard to figure out how we're going to make a selection. And we're going to talk about how to choose that right now. So diving in, branding is going to be one of the most important things when choosing a theme. Katie put together a presentation last night of the branding for their business here, and we're going to go through it about what our visuals are going to look like, what text we might be inspired by, what kind of products we're going to offer, and we'll transfer this into the WordPress website. But Katie, do you think you could give us a rundown of what you put together here for the brand and what the vision for the product is?
Yeah, totally. I would love to. So the concept behind this business is basically sessions that you can book with me to talk through moments of grief. So I am in the middle of being credentialed as a grief coach and a death doula, but because I haven't really gotten to the expert level of those, I wanted to start getting my hours started. I wanted to get my business started, and I wanted to keep it very simple and accessible and introductory. I didn't want it to be too complex. I didn't want to get into any therapy language. So really here, what we see is the bare bones of a website just getting started, and it's going to be titled A Grief Guide. And what the website will be offering are sessions that you can book with me, where I will personalize the plan, the approach, and the model that we work with throughout those sessions. And I really wanted the vibe to be comforting. I wanted it to really feel like you were looking at a website that immediately would bring you a sense of calmness, and like it wasn't too complicated. I think I was telling Emily about this. Like, I really wanted the website to just have very simple links and resources for folks that perhaps were already in a state of overwhelm, where they could easily find what they were looking for. So yes, we'll be working with Holding the Ache as a grief guide, and finding ways to turn a website into an extremely helpful resource for those, going through a tough time. And I'm excited to get it started.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I really appreciate that you took the time to put together such an in-depth branding guide here. I think a lot of people jump into WordPress and they're like, let me choose a theme that works for my business. And it's like, well, we kind of need much more of a sense of what the brand feel is in an abstract way where we can drag and drop elements and get a feel for all this. So this is going to be great. So when we're in the backend choosing our theme, you described the visual appeal, the brand feel, but we also have some functionality. We're going to be selling digital products through SureCart, and we're going to be potentially offering blog posts. So we're not necessarily just going for the first theme that we see out of the box that visually represents the brand. We also want to match functionality. And so there were a couple of themes we were looking at. Let me jump to our DM, and we could see some of the ones that we looked at, Xeno and Impressionist. Those were two that were here on the WordPress repo. So if we dive in, Xeno is this theme here. It does very closely look like what we have, where we have a lot of white space, a lot of visuals, a lot of calmness. And then we were also looking at Impressionist. And so let's take that here. And see, this is a very similar appeal. We can dive into one of the pages. There's it's very playful, very lighthearted, very much white space, and very calming. So these themes do feel like they would do a lot of work towards the brand feel we're looking for. One of the themes that we work with a lot in the WordPress space is Astra. It's one of the most popular themes we'll find on the repo. When we go to add new theme, Astra is usually in the top few rows here. And so this one's good for if you're doing LMS, if you're doing e-commerce. There's a lot of reasons that Astra is a good theme to choose. Kadence is another one that's popularly up there. But it will allow us to create a look like this in addition to supporting that kind of functionality that we'll need. And so I always recommend using a theme that's conscious of the tools that you will be working with in addition to the design that you want to have. And while this doesn't look as good as what we have here, or as close, we can kind of see that conceptually we could put it together. So for this tutorial, we'll install the Astra theme and see where we can go with it.
And Emily, I don't know if you see, but we actually have a question if you have a moment to answer it. And we're just being asked why we're using SureCart. And I'm sure you have some thoughts about it as to why we're pivoting in that direction. And, you know, we're not taking a ton of time to answer questions this round, but we'll answer a couple.
Yeah. I think SureCart is a product that the creators of Astra are involved with. I think it was the first e-commerce solution that we decided to play around with. But yeah, WooCommerce is another really popular option. Probably the most popular option for e-commerce and WordPress is WooCommerce. Been around for a really long time. And yeah, there's storing your data offsite is one thing that is an interesting consideration. I do appreciate how there's like suggestions from SureCart about how you could structure your sales funnels and how you could structure your products. I don't find that as much with WooCommerce, but yeah, whatever WooCommerce solution you feel would work best for your business. And you can always migrate between e-commerce solutions, especially when you're selling individual products, like single purchase products. If you're getting into the subscription game of like membership websites or recurring purchases, it gets a little more complicated. And you'll want to make sure you stick with an e-commerce solution for as long as possible. Right. But yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Emily.
Of course. It's a great question. And so yeah, with Astra installed and activated here, Astra also offers starter sites. Let's see if we could activate those. So if we go to starter templates here, install and activate, this is a third-party plugin, or not a third-party plugin, but a separate plugin, separate from the theme, but created by the same people who make the Astra theme. That allows us to have a similar experience to when we're first installing a theme and we're looking at what's available. We can select what page builder we're working with. We're just working with WordPress out of the box, but a lot like the theme repository, we also have starter templates that we can choose from. And so business does not match any starter templates. Is this, I wonder if we have some kind of like API issue with this. Let's get started. Build with a template. Do the block editor. There we go. Okay, so this is what we're hoping to see here, where we have a lot of options for starter sites we can work with. Some of them come with the Astra Premium package and some of them are free. The one we looked at in the demo before looks a lot like this, where we have a simple subject line, a call to action, and it feels like it could lend itself pretty well to what we're trying to build here. So if we dive in with this one, we can choose a font here, and the font you have is TT Corals, and I don't think we'll have that one, but do any of these fonts look good to you, Katie? We have this one. I think this is the one we chose.
Yeah, I like that
demo.
one. That looks great.
Okay. Cool. And of course, we can change the fonts later and in very specific ways, but for now, it's we'll just choose something that they have out of the box so we could get a feel for what's going on. This color palette with the orange looks pretty similar to what we're trying to recreate, so we could go with that. We are selling e-commerce and WooCommerce. We'll do sales funnels and stuff a little bit later, but I'm going to skip through here, and they'll say, tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm just going to skip these data forms. And it will install that starter template for us. We can then go forward with customizing with our specific content into this template. But using a powerful theme like Astra or Kadence is another popular one, any theme that has a lot of starter templates for you to choose from allows you to have a theme that supports various functionality that you might include for a website. With something like WP Fusion, where you're running email lists, when you're doing courses, membership sites, e-commerce, it's going to be a heavier WordPress website than a portfolio website for a photographer or a restaurant website, or even a general blog website. The optimization methods, the speed that they can achieve by caching their content using CDNs and extreme extents, all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of functionality that we're going to need to use something like WP Fusion and really get the most out of a concrete business on top of WordPress. So always choose a theme that's good for that. So it looks like our site is done. It just took 40 seconds to build. Let's view the website and see what we have. It should look pretty similar to what the demo looked like. And now we can start taking our elements here and turning them into the website. So let's dive in to changing the logo. But what do you think, Katie, about what
I think
we're
this looks awesome. No, this is exciting, and it's amazing how fast that you get this done, and it seems really accessible. So yeah, just cheering you on over here.
Yeah, totally. Well, thank you. And feel free to let us know if you have any other questions in the chat as well for anyone watching. It's really exciting to see the business start to come together in like a way where people can interact with it, you know? But let's dive into Customizer.
Perfect.
And so the Customizer is where we're going to do a lot of appearance modification for Astra. So if we're going to set like an image for our logo, this is where we'll do it. And so the header builder and site title and logo is where we'll be able to swap out this template with something that fits what we're trying to put together. And we could stick with this theme of the hands and the half circle here. I think this looks awesome. For a logo, we're going to want to do something that's like a PNG or an SVG, so that it can be like black and white kind of on a transparent background. Like in this case, we see Earth as like a transparent background, and so we will want to do something similar. Let's take this little hand. Looks incredible. Let's clear out a lot of the elements that we don't need to delete. Let's see what this does. There we go. Let's clear it up a little bit for our logo specifically. We're going to be working on a white background. because this is what it will look like when it's transparent. And of course, you can always change your logo and branding and everything later. My recommendation is to start with something that's as fast as possible for you to build and get out to other people. As long as your brand is personal, where you are a solopreneur or you have a small team, having a brand that changes, changing brand colors, changing brand name, it's not super duper consequential. But when it comes to having a bigger business, sometimes branding changes are pretty consequential. So while you do need to think about branding up front, you don't need to stress about it super duper much before we have like 100 customers or so. I think this looks awesome. What do you think about this, Katie?
I think it looks great. And yeah, I just want to highlight when we were going through this earlier, having the transparent background is really important for this because we ran into some issues with a non-transparent background. So yeah, definitely make sure you're taking all of the steps that Emily is in creating your logo here.
Yeah, and so SVGs or PNGs will lend themselves to transparent backgrounds. So I'm not going to want to export in JPEG from Canva. I'll swap to a PNG. And then transparent background, that box, you'll want to make sure that that is checked anywhere you're exporting from. You could be using Photoshop, the Adobe Suite, whatever it might be, but we're going to make sure transparent background is selected. And then we'll click on download. It'll take a moment. And then we can jump back into our website and set that as our logo. So if we change our logo, I'm going to upload the file we just got. I do recommend optimizing your images before uploading them to the website. So if you can compress your images in any way to make them smaller file sizes, definitely recommended. I didn't do any compression right now just for the demo here, but always recommend compressing the files.
And how do you do that? What sort of tools can you use to compress your files?
Yeah, I use online tools a lot of the time. If you're working with exporting from Canva, for example, we could choose a sizing that's more appropriate to the positioning we're going to be adding this in. So what I chose for a download was big. I chose 1920 by 1080p. But what we're dealing with here is more like a 200 to 300 pixel width size. So if we were to be a little more economical with our export, and then if we also visit Google and do compressjpeg.com or compresspng.com or tinypng, tinyjpeg, those are some popular ones, and they'll get our file size down a little more.
I gotcha. That makes sense.
But on this site, it's not super necessary for us right now, but definitely in the future as we get more traffic and we want the site to be faster, to optimize, that is good. And I would skip cropping. When you crop in WordPress, sometimes it puts a background on here. So I'm just going to skip cropping. And there we go, holding the egg. And you know what? I could even more closely crop this on my computer. So if I'll show you this screen too. There's a lot you can do with your photos before you upload them. And so if we jump here, I'm in my preview on Mac. I can really tightly crop this, and I understand the contrast is super low, so hopefully y'all can see this, but we could get even a tighter crop on our logo, do Command K for crop. I'll save that file, and then we'll upload that back to our website with an even better definition for the header.
Great.
So let me rename that file real quick. File date created. This is our logo. So jumping back, change logo. Now we have an even better version and we can swap that in. Skip cropping, be a little bigger, a little more prominent, and we can change the width here. So maybe we would go for something more like 170. That looks pretty great. And then let's take a look at the homepage. Nope, it's in the process of changing. There it goes.
Cool. Looks great.
Yeah, it's that's awesome. It's cool to see this kind of like start to come together. And then this next step, we'll see it come together even more. We'll swap out the background with these mountains for something on brand with our project. So just like I copied the page and kind of suited this up for a logo, let's copy the page again and delete all the elements so that we have this nice background that you have selected here. And if I share this image and download it, I'm going to select JPEG this time. And of course, optimize your files. But right now, we're just going to go right into the process of exporting and uploading. So on our edit page here, when we're editing our homepage, all of your theme choices will be laid out a little bit differently. If you go with Kadence, they'll use Kadence blocks. If you go with Astra, they'll use Spectra. These are free products that you'll often find on the back end of your website under plugins, WP admin. If we jump here under plugins, we can add plugins like block packs to our website to give us more options. When we did our starter site, it installed Spectra automatically, and it installed starter templates. And so you'll want to check what plugins you're using, and they all have different options, and you can watch tutorials in those specific plugins. For what we're looking at on this screen, it's determined by Spectra because I chose Astra. They also produce this product, and so they just put their product on the website.
Makes sense.
Yeah. It's nice to be in a family of products where you're using a lot of the products made by the same company, because then you have less likelihood that you're going to run into conflicts that are unsolvable.
Right.
And so changing our picture here. So we're looking at a container element, and I love this list view at the top. We have a container element so we can see kind of what's going on here. If I open the settings on the right-hand side here, we're going to look to swap this picture out. So under the styling tab, we're going to change this image for the one that we just downloaded. So adding the very cool background. This is where a lot of our brand feel is going to start to happen. So go to my homepage. Go to your homepage.
Nah, it's ours right now. We're building it together.
Yeah. Yeah. But this is starting to come together. You can see that like we're more closely mimicking what we have over here in Canva with our WordPress instance. Awesome. So we can keep going with this, and let's make a few more changes so that our learners walk away with a sense of how they can go from Canva, brand feel, brand design into WordPress. And so a lot of this is going to come down to just updating our text. So our info box has some text here. Holding the egg, we're going to change in our styling. This is a prefix. And it might take you a few minutes to, it might take a few hours or even sometimes a few days to learn how these blocks all work, because there's so many settings, and depending on the theme you choose and the tools you choose, it'll be different for everybody. So feel free to give yourself plenty of time to explore the settings and kind of work your way around the interface.
Yeah, and I would say, this is the first video of many. So if there are questions that come about, places you want us to slow down, come back to, we're really happy to grab that feedback and take it into our next live stream as well. Yeah,
absolutely. Your feedback will guide us on this journey. Absolutely. So we have the grief guide. And we can see, we can add more spacing and more dynamic stuff to this. But right here, we're just starting to play around with the styling. But because we did all this work before in Canva, we have a great place to go when it's time to bring it into WordPress. I know a lot of people I work with open up a blank WordPress website and they're like, I'm lost, I don't know what to do. And so by having this pre-work done, we're in a better place.
Awesome.
And so we can dive in on the next stream to some more functionality stuff. You can see here we have a button. This is going to be the primary call to action that people see on our website. And we also have a menu up here on the top. We'll want to customize the menu and customize our call to action so that people know exactly where to go and what to do and what the business is about. If they scroll down, we'll add the products that we offer. We'll add a description potentially of what we do here on the site to give people more context for where they're at, if they're a good fit for the product, and what they'd want to do next once they land on our website. But that's probably about it for this tutorial. That's how you can install a theme, choose a theme, build your branding, and bring that branding into your theme with WordPress and the WP Fusion team. In this series, we'll get into a lot more complex items like how are you going to set up your e-commerce? How are you going to set up your mailing list? How are you going to email people before and after they purchase a product? What is the flow and experience of your website going to look like? So stick around, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have all kinds of great content and more content coming out on YouTube. You might be streaming here. You might see us on Facebook. Wherever you're at, follow WP Fusion, and we'll be back with some more content about getting started with WordPress. Do you have any last words, Katie, for the people, the good people?
I just wanted to say, everyone, thanks for joining us. And we're taking into consideration the comments in the chat that I see from Build Year 86. Thank you for that. And perhaps we can do some work to incorporate these items as we move forward. I know I need to learn about them, and they'll also be super instrumental to make this website. So stick around. We'll be back next week. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
We'll be back next week at this exact time. And thank you for joining us. This was such a delight. And thank you, Emily, for being WordPress guru. Really appreciate you. And yeah, excited for next time.
Excited for next time. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.